What if I told you that one single volcano could destroy the entire planet? You'd probably assume I was talking about Yellowstone National Park, which, yes, is a supervolcano. But even if it were to erupt, it would take centuries for its effects to be felt all around the world. What I'm actually talking about is something much more extreme, the kind of eruption that hasn't happened in over 2 million years, and might not happen for another 2 million years. Except that if it did, we would be completely screwed. This is how a supervolcano could change life on Earth forever. You wake up to the news that Yellowstone National Park has erupted. The entire park has been decimated, and the surrounding states have been buried in ash. In fact, most of the western United States is now uninhabitable. And you're just grateful that you live in New York City on the East Coast, far away from all that. You get on with your day. But when you turn on the TV later that night, there's only one thing on every channel. A plume of smoke rising from the surface of the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Japan. An earthquake has triggered an underwater eruption of Mount Vesuvius, a volcano so powerful that it obliterated the small Japanese island of Kuchinor-Abujima and sent tsunami waves crashing into the Russian Kuril Islands. But it's really lucky that this didn't hit a big city. But it gets worse. The steam released by the eruption triggered a runaway greenhouse effect on Venus, causing its atmospheric pressure to spike by several tens of thousands of pounds per square inch. If this happens on Earth, our atmosphere will become so dense that breathing will be difficult, and it will feel like you're constantly drowning. Every bird on every continent falls out of the sky, paralyzed by their own body weight. All the fish in the ocean die, unable to swim against the current. And yet, somehow, all the animals living under the sea seem fine. So far, the effects are global but localized. And although some areas are inhospitable, there are plenty of places you could go to survive, at least for a while. You'd think the rest of the world would be pretty pissed about their country getting destroyed. But you've got a front row seat to see how politics works, because the UN has already begun pointing fingers. China blames the United States for ignoring signs of the Yellowstone eruption. Russia blames China for not helping. Australia blames both of them for being whiny babies. And North Korea blames everyone for not respecting its nuclear deterrent. But you don't care what they blame you for, because right now they're about to find out. As weeks go by, more and more weird stuff starts happening. Birds begin falling from the sky, not because they can't fly anymore, but because there's no food anywhere. Fish in the ocean die, not because they can't swim anymore, but because there's nothing to eat. There's an energy crisis around the world as oil stops flowing from the Middle East and pipelines freeze up in northern Canada. As starvation, dehydration, and disease take hold, the human race bands together. You and all the people you know struggle to rebuild civilization. You and your friends get married and start a family, and you work hard to make the world a better place again. But it gets worse. The sun isn't shining as brightly as it used to, and winter lasts for months. That's because the eruption of Mount Vesuvius changed the tilt of the axis on which the Earth spins. Our orbit around the sun is already misaligned by about 5 degrees. And if that sounds like a lot, well, you're right. It means that half the year we get 6 hours less sunlight than we need. But when the Earth wobbles on its axis by just a few degrees, the result is total chaos. Some regions of the Earth that used to be comfortable and temperate now experience freezing cold, while other regions that used to be inhospitable deserts now become thriving farmlands. You see, it's not easy to take care of a family when there's civil war raging everywhere, but at least it's not cold or frozen. For hundreds of years, you and your descendants struggled to adapt to the changing climate and rebuild society from scratch. And finally, after 1,000 years, things begin to settle down. The Earth renews itself, and humanity enters a new golden age. Except it doesn't, because it gets worse. Because although the tilt of the Earth's axis may eventually return to normal, there's no coming back from what's happened next. Gravity fluctuates across the planet. Due to the massive size of the supervolcano, gravity has shifted enough that the oceans are no longer where they used to be. Whole countries are submerged and others are now high and dry. Meanwhile, the atmosphere has become so dense that the poles are now magnetic north and south, resulting in giant auroras visible all around the world. And even worse, because the land masses are in a different place, the Gulf Stream and other ocean currents that once circulated around the globe have disappeared, leading to unprecedented heat waves in Europe and ice ages in North America. You throw yourself on the mercy of Mother Nature, begging her to just give you one more chance to do things right, except she doesn't. Even without any major eruptions for thousands of years, the Earth will continue to be shaken by earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic activity, at least until the axis returns to its original position, and the odds of that happening anytime soon are exactly 0%. You try to stay optimistic, but now you're wondering why the universe hates you so much. Why did it decide to destroy everything you've ever known and loved? Well, here's the thing. Scientists think that the real reason supervolcanoes exist is to prevent life from taking over the planet. It turns out that supervolcanoes tend to happen every 2 million years, give or take, which is also about the lifespan of a genus of mammals. Think about it. Mammals diversified during the Triassic period, when dinosaurs were mostly small, fast lizards. But by the end of the Jurassic, when dinosaurs were giants, mammals had to crawl back into the sea and become whales, or burrow underground and become moles. Basically, if the ancestors of humans had evolved into some kind of megafauna during the Cretaceous period, then they wouldn't have survived the KPG event when an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs. And there's evidence that supervolcanic eruptions have played a similar role throughout history, preventing large terrestrial vertebrates from evolving too big for their ecosystem to handle. So maybe the Earth didn't hate you. Maybe it was trying to save you from becoming an extinct species of megalodon. Now, all this talk of Earth hating us humans makes me want to switch the subject to something more pleasant, like the fact that we can send messages back in time by sending them into space. We've done it before, like with the Voyager Golden Record, which was designed to represent the diversity of life on Earth in case aliens ever found it. But one of the first things we ever put into space was a lot more fun. In 1969, NASA placed a vinyl record aboard the Apollo 10 mission, which flew to the moon and back without any astronauts on board. It was a compilation called We Choose to Go to the Moon, which featured music from Beethoven to Elvis Presley. And to make sure it would sound good, NASA worked with Columbia Records to encode the songs onto a special metallized mylar film instead of a regular vinyl record. But when NASA tried playing the record back in 1976, it sounded like garbage. They realized that the tape had been damaged by cosmic radiation, and to fix it, they had to remove all the bad parts. When they finally managed to play the record, it was filled with pops, crackles, and hiss. Now, if you're thinking that this sounds a lot like your old cassette tapes, well, you're right. It's actually considered the very first audio cassette ever made. And if you send a message into space, it could take hundreds of years for anyone to find it. But if you want to send something a little more personal, there's always the option to etch your message onto a metal plate and hurl it into space with one of these machines. No matter what you choose to do, just remember one thing: don't say anything you wouldn't want the entire universe to hear.